I'm Tim Horn. Welcome to today's interview, and it is going to be just fantastic. Let me ask you something. Have you ever thought about what it would be like to grow up in a socialist or communist country? Well, it's hard to imagine, isn't it? Because most of us that are watching this tape right now grew up under freedom. We didn't really worry about socialism and communism being right down the street from us. So today, we're going to have a woman that's going to speak to us about communism and socialism and what it's like to grow up in China. When it was communist, she was a young girl and grew up there. It's going to be amazing because now she sees the other side. She moved to America, she went to college here, and then raised her family here. We're going to hear all about it today from our guest, whose name is Lily Tang Williams. Obviously, her husband's name is Williams, and I've met him. He's a great guy too, and you're going to like Lily. So let's introduce Lily right now. Lily, thank you for coming in for an interview today. It's just fantastic to have you here.
Well, Tim, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And of course, you and I have had a couple of conversations, and we even had dinner together, which was wonderful. I don't usually get that opportunity, but I've come to know you and your husband and the great story that you have to tell. And while I'm saying that, if you want to get information about Lily, and I'll say it again later, but if you want to see Lily's life story and some of her information, you'll be able to go out on the internet, and I think it's Lily, it's Lily, 4, the numeral 4, Liberty. And that's at .comcast.net, right?
Well, my Facebook page, just Lily for Liberty, and the Twitter, also Lily for Liberty. That's my name brand.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what my North Star is. It's always a liberty.
Okay. All right, so now you know how to get more information about Lily, but let's get into our interview right now. So, how many years, you were born into a communist environment, correct?
Yes, I was born just 2 years right before the Mao's Great Cultural Revolution. That was in the 60s in Chengdu, Sichuan province, which is southwestern part of China.
Yeah, so you were actually at the beginning of the entire Cultural Revolution under Mao.
From 2 years old to 12 years old.
Okay.
So it was 10 years Cultural Revolution. I was, entire time, I was in Chengdu and living in this community housing provided by my dad's employer, which is a huge steel factory that 8 families lived together in a courtyard and shared one bathroom.
8 families lived in a courtyard with one bathroom, and the housing was provided by your employer, which I assume was some sort of contractor for the federal government. Well, you probably don't call it federal government, for the national government.
Well, you know that the communism means the government owns everything, all means production. So my dad just one of the workers for the steel factory that building steels.
So you're making steel?
Yes,
Okay.
and so of course he was married, got 3 kids, and so we live in this courtyard, and people think, oh, free housing sounds wonderful, but I'm telling you, that's my worst nightmare of my childhood. Think about it, from about 1 year old, my memory, we moved there from 1 year old until 15. I did not even have a picture of it because we were so poor. We live in this community housing, and where you have 8 families share one bathroom. It's a big hole on the ground, divided half for man and half for woman.
Okay, so let me get this right. So the bathroom facilities for the 8 families that were living in this kind of a communal dormitory style housing provided by your employer, which is owned by the state.
Right.
The facilities weren't as nice as what I'm guessing some people would think they would be in a communist country. So you had one bathroom, and it was divided into men and women.
Right, it's a big hole on the ground.
There was a hole.
Yeah.
The hole was the toilet?
The hole is where they hold the human waste.
Goes into the hole.
So once a month, you have a peasant come into your courtyard, dig everything out into 2 big buckets, and take them to the farmland. It was so smelly.
So then they would take the human waste and put it on the farmland to grow crops.
Right, that hole become available again. Then you can, use the bathroom and put more stuff there.
And this was outside.
It was in the courtyard, end of just right by our apartment. It was really smelly in the summer with lots of bugs. And I remember since it was a community housing, so nobody owned anything. So
Right.
when night bulb went off, it's scary to go to bathroom at night. But nobody cared to put a new light bulb in because they would rather have their own little flashlights for personal use. Nobody cared just to replace the light bulb. So I was very scared to go to the bathroom at night. So
I bet.
everybody had a little potty container in their apartment. So they would just do at home, then dump it next day there.
Oh,
You know.
out in the toilet.
Yeah, it's like big hole.
Was there
the
any
big
running
hole.
water in the toilets? And how did you bathe?
And we had a one centralized faucet for the entire family of 8. So one faucet. So everybody will stand up in line to go get the water when it's peak time to cook and clean. So my dad had to be smart. And my dad never went to one-day school. He grew up as an orphan, but he knows how to
He
use
grew up as an
concrete.
orphan, your dad?
Yes, my dad did.
Okay.
So he built a concrete container for us. So I was the oldest child out of 3. So I had to do lots of housework. Of course, no toys, no radios, nothing like that. So they every day is about housework. So when nobody is in line, my dad will send me to go use a big bucket to go get water filled up. Then go to our outdoor kitchen where my dad built a big container to store water.
Like a little cistern. to
Yeah,
hold
so you
water.
got go dump it,
A
go
basin,
dump
okay,
it, go.
yeah.
So in case you run out of water, sometimes the water doesn't come out. Then you're stuck. You cannot cook and clean.
Where did the water come from?
It's just from some kind of city system, but only got one
faucet. So
yeah,
everybody went to the one faucet
to get water.
to get water. How far away was it?
You just walk past a few family doors. It was in the courtyard.
It was in that same
Yeah,
courtyard.
but just sometimes the problem just you ran out water.
So it was a communal water fountain and a communal toilet. Were there any shower facilities or bathtubs?
No, the only way we showered was in the winter was really tough. You normally would just use a sponge bath, right? In the summer, little container with water, sponge bath, no shower.
In your apartment, I suppose.
In apartment. In the winter, then you use boiled water, make it really hot, mix with cold water. Then you sit in little like a wash basin, like bucket. Then you can wash yourself. When I was little, I guess my mom, dad helped me to clean myself. And it wasn't until not later that I would go to my mom or my aunts, like a state factory. They had a community factory shower. Then you got 100 women inside taking shower together. So I grew up that way. So it was like a special trade. You have to pay money for that.
Oh.
It's like once a month, I go have a community shower
Oh my God.
with adults. And but otherwise, my mom will help me to wash my hair in a little container and do the bath in the basin. In the winter it was very cold. You have to wash very quick because you get cold. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be fixed on bathroom facilities, but I think our viewers that are seeing this are thinking right now, and it comes kind of home, close to home, because everybody here takes having hot running water and cold running water for granted, even poor people in the United States. So was that pretty common to live the way you lived when you were growing up?
Well, I did go to some higher officials' family, like my friend's father had a better status and position inside of government, and they had actually a little faucet, like a sink in their apartment. I was just totally impressed. Wow, you had your own water in your apartment, and we all remember it's not even toilet, Tim. When
Right.
you go to the bathroom in our courtyard, it's a squat. You have 2 breaks over the hole. You go there, you squat, you use bathroom, then you wipe yourself, you leave. But at dark, now you can imagine my nightmare. What if you don't find those 2 breaks? What if you step?
2 bricks.
2
Okay.
bricks. Yeah.
So you
What
have
if
one
you,
for each foot.
Yeah. What if you step into the hole? Then behind you was all the human waste. It was a nightmare. I still dream about that bathroom.
There must have been bugs and stuff too, right?
Bugs, and
Yeah.
in the summer, the bugs crawling everywhere. My nightmare. I told my husband, is those bugs crawling on the floor in the summer really bother me because if
I
I
feel
was
bad. I feel like I want to hug her because I brought this memory back for her.
if I wasn't careful, I would step on those bugs and they would make pop noise, and that just really make me freak out, like a bump, and like comes out.
Oh, it make you afraid.
But then I went to my friend's bathroom, and least they still got a hole on the ground, but it was more hidden, small, and you still
It was a nicer
squat.
hole in the ground.
Yeah, nicer hole, and they could just dump water. Like for example, when you use big number 2, you can get some water because
Yeah.
they have their own water,
I see.
and they can just flush down.
Wash it down.
So it's not so smelly,
Did it? But they still had a hole. It wasn't public sewer.
No,
like we have.
you had a hole, yeah.
Okay, so how high? You were mentioning you were in a lower class. Was that the 5th class down, or?
No, like okay, the poorest, the poor, it's peasants, right? Then after that, it's just workers.
That's where
so my
your dad was.
is an illiterate. He grew up as an orphan. He was totally illiterate. He cannot even read in
read.
Chinese today.
No.
My mom got elementary school education, so we were very poor and bottom working class, which is good for me because I was born as a red child. We mentioned about Chinese divided people into 10 classes.
10
5 red,
classes?
yeah,
5
5
reds.
red and 5 black. So workers, peasants, revolutionary soldiers, military, government officials, and heroes all are red class. So I was red class. So I could wear red scarf, become Mao's young pioneer.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what she's saying is that it was so stratified by the government. They had classifications, 10 classifications, 5 red, 5 black.
Yeah.
And she feels good that she was in the 5 red classes because she could be in the Red Guard that many of us have read about that supported Mao.
A young pioneer.
Young
wear
pioneers,
the red
that's it.
scarf too. That's for elementary school students.
So you can remember wearing
But
that.
here's a story I tell people all the time. I was 7 years old when I first went to public school,
Yes.
because my parents asked me to stay at home to babysit my 1-year-old baby brother, the youngest. People think communism, everything's free. No, it was utopian. We had to pay for childcare. My parents begged me to stay home as the oldest child to say, can you babysit your baby brother? We could not afford his childcare in my mom's day factory.
Okay, so your
They-
mom was working in a factory,
Right.
and your dad making
Work for
steel.
another
Yeah.
factory.
And so they wanted you to be the babysitter for the family so they wouldn't have to pay for childcare.
Right.
And they
I
would have
was
some
a
money.
6 years old little girl. My brother was 1 year old.
Yeah.
And they bribed me. I wanted to go to school so bad. I know my dad can never read. My mom is elementary school educated. They always tell me, if you can read, get the best education, you can move up. You will get more food rationing.
More food rationing.
Yeah, more food rationing, better
Okay.
living conditions.
So this is so new to anyone listening to this. So here are these classes set up, and you're discussing with your parents what are the options to move up, and so you're learning to move up to maybe another class, still in the reds, but move up to another class.
But it's higher position in the state
in the, s-
jobs.
in the
you know.
state jobs. So they're all state jobs, and you can get higher if you can learn how to read. But then you got to be able to afford to learn how to read because somebody's got to babysit.
Right. So my parents wanted me to go to school. I love to go to school. I grew up without any toys, any entertainment. The only thing I could think is fun is by reading books. But they asked me to stay because they said, Lily,
Yeah.
we need your help.
Yes.
And so I was 6 years old.
You were
I
6?
cried for 3 days. I wanted to go to school. They bribed me with a movie ticket. That's my only reward. By grain, stay home, delay school for a year, by offering me a movie ticket. I remember that very well. I was watching Yugoslavia people fighting Nazis. We loved the foreign movie because in the foreign movie you can see people hugging, kissing each other, and in Chinese culture at that time, we were suppressed to express even personal love. We're forbidden to talk about personal love, or we're forbidden to date in school. So by watching foreign movie was a big treat. So I watched a movie and I came home dedicated to say, okay, parents, I will do my duty to my family, stay home for a year.
So duty's a big thing. And that's good. So let's get this straight. So you are in this class, you'd like to move up, you're 6 years old, to bribe you to delay your schooling and be a babysitter for a year.
Yeah.
I'm supposing this was the first movie ticket you'd ever had.
To watch a foreign movie.
Right. So you're going to get to go see a foreign movie,
Right.
which shows something outside
China,
outside
yes.
of China, and totally different. But you're told this, you're in a utopian society.
Yeah, right. And
Doesn't sound too utopian to me. I don't know.
well, we were always told that the 2/3 of the world population were starving. We should be grateful, even though we were on food rationing every month. But we should be grateful we had the rice to eat.
Okay, so she's a little girl in China, and she's being told 2/3 of the people in the world are all starving. Meaning, I suppose, the capitalists out there, they're all starving people. They're apparently bad.
And the Taiwanese people were suffering, and
But because we're communists here, you have food to eat.
yeah, we should be grateful.
You should be grateful, and it's great. Communism gives you food to eat.
Right, we should be say thank you, Chairman Mao, thank you, Communist Party.
I know I'm gonna ask you some additional detail, but so food rationing, the United States went through food rationing. Some of our viewers will remember during World War II, they rationed lots of things. Not everything, but lots of things, tires and all kinds of stuff, because everything was needed for the war effort to win, and we did. But that would be foreign to almost all Americans today, the whole idea of it. So when they rationed food, first of all, did everybody have rationed food? Everybody you knew?
Everybody living in our courtyard, everybody in my extended family had a rationing food. And rationing food is done by local government. So government will issue you food coupons for your basic needs, like how many pounds of rice, and meat, and eggs, and sugar, and wheat. So if based on the head, so you have family of 5. I just remember for family of 5, we had 2.5 pounds of so-called protein coupons. Protein includes meat and eggs.
And eggs.
And eggs. So if you buy eggs, you cannot buy meat, vice versa. So it just, we have to really take
So
our for a month.
A month you could have, for a family of 5, you could have 2.5 pounds.
So half pound for each person.
A half a pound of protein for a month.
Yeah, most is pork and eggs. So we don't have beef and chicken. We're
Now,
like a super
the rationing
tourist.
the rationing coupon gave you the ability then to buy it. They didn't just give it to you,
you go
right?
to designated, like a state, local government shop to buy. You have to present your coupon.
So coupon and money.
Yeah, there is a black market. However, the prices are higher. I remember we did not have pork fat or bacon fat to cook, no oil, right?
Yeah.
My dad one day come home and bought some white stuff. He told us it was a bear fat. I don't know where is that true or not. Bear fat? So we can cook food and fry vegetables. I couldn't tell. It's like a pork or bacon,
Right.
or bear fat. But he said, I got it from black market. It's very high price, because otherwise we just boil vegetables, put hot pepper sauce on top to swallow down our white rice.
So let me get this
No
right.
oil, no fat.
So your mother or whoever had to go to the store would go to the store, take her rationing coupon, because she's only allowed so much,
Right.
and take the money that they were making working in the factories,
Right,
provide those to this probably state-run store.
right,
They would then give you
right.
as much as half a pound per person for a
Yeah.
month of protein, either eggs or meat. And then you had to go out and get water from out in the courtyard. Mm-hmm. How did you boil the water? It wasn't readily
We
available.
burn coals.
You burned coals in a little oven?
We had a little, like a stove, kind of like this. So the coal is made with a hose in the middle.
Yeah.
So that's a famous story too. Once in a while, everybody have to go get the coal to load into your courtyard near your kitchen. So when the heat about running out, my job as a 6-year-old babysitter at home, I need to keep fire going. Otherwise, when the coal collapses, you cannot have heat to cook.
Right.
So I have to.
It's
add
tough
the
to
coal.
restart.
Yeah, you have to put the coal on top of each other so the new fire will
Keep
come
warm,
up.
yes.
Oh, it smells so bad. It does make you cough sometimes. I think I was having too much fun, play with my friends. 3 times I remember. 3 times, the coal collapsed. My dad come home. There's no rice being cooked because
Where's
there's no
Lily?
heat. And I was so scared because my dad's gonna spank me. So I ran away to my great aunt's place to hide. And said, oh, I don't want to go home until you make my dad promise he's not gonna spank me because I was having fun. I forgot to add the coal on time. Then it collapsed. Then the fire is gone.
Okay, so those of you who are listening to this is going to sound really foreign. But at one time, even in America, it was not a strange thing for parents to spank their children. And many of you probably don't even know what that is. But it usually meant taking a hand and smacking a child on his rear or her rear. And that was a physical penalty. Didn't feel good. And so when I was young, my mother had a ping pong paddle. You know what that is, right?
Yes,
Chinese
we
are good
play
at ping
ping
pong.
pong.
She had a ping pong paddle and 7 kids. She wore those paddles out, man. So
Yeah. So
we
my
had 5 boys and 2 girls.
my
man.
great
It was
grand
fun.
aunt was very, very fond of me. She was very sweet.
So she was-
yeah.
she was your
always,
spokesperson.
She trying to protect me.
Yeah.
So my dad would take a bus to come to get me, and she were making promise not to punish me because I was just child,
Yes.
just was having fun, forgot, and I would go home with my dad, and he stick to his promise. When I go home with him, he never punish me,
Good for
spanking
him.
me. Yeah, but
Man of his word.
yeah, right. That it just I was so scared, little child,
Okay.
and that was the only fun I had was just playing with my friends and in the courtyard.
Well,
You know.
yes. Now I'm going to try to move on, though. Those are great stories, and it really gives us some insight. So let me ask, is it still similar to that today?
Oh no, China is pretty modern now. We are the second largest economy.
Does it
because
still have
of-
the classes?
The poor and rich gap is huge. It's huge. It's a consumer-based culture now. That so some people, because of that, some people don't know how to understand it. Especially older generation who grew up under Mao, everybody was equally poor. They could not understand that.
Yes.
So when you go to China, you see old people were worship Mao again, and they were buy Mao's buttons, and they were sing Mao's
Those
songs.
red books?
Yeah, they like to hold on to their past, but because the limited market reform has made like you mentioned it, probably 600 million Chinese out of poverty. But then the gap is becoming huge because Deng Xiaoping saw the collapsing of economy when Mao died in 1976. So he come out to say, let's have an economic reform, let's open the door to foreign investors, and let some people get rich first. That's his famous glorious sentence. Getting rich is glorious. Used to be if you are rich capitalist, you were demonized, you were bad guys, you go to labor camps. But now he wants people to say, hey, getting rich now is glorious. So I know one neighbor in my poor neighborhood was the first one who ever quitting his state job to open up his first restaurant, And he's the first one got rich, bought a motorcycle, later built a house in the countryside for his old parents. We were so jealous of him. You're so brave, you're so rich. Of course, that was the beginning. He started earlier, so he got rich first. But I remember that very well. So today's China is very different.
Did he have connections inside the government to be able to start his own company?
When Deng Xiaoping started to have this policy, it was pretty easy at that time. You can just quit your job. Maybe you have to go get a license or permit or something, and then start your business. My dad was entrepreneur, no education, right? So my dad always had a problem with his Communist Party leadership in his state factory. So they want to get rid of him. So when he was in his late 40s or something, they said, Mr. Tang, we want you to go to countryside to work. It's like a 2 days bus right away. When they send you to work somewhere else by the state factory, there's no family package, okay? Your family stay here, you go there working. So my dad said, I can't, boss. My wife is sick all the time. I got 3 kids. My dad refused to go. They said, what? You retire then, Mr. Tang. You take an early retirement. So he was forced to retire.
At what age?
Before 50s.
So they were kicking him out of his job, essentially.
Yeah, my dad said, I'm strong. I'm very, very mechanical. I can do lots of things on my own. And here's the problem. He retired as an early retirement, and they would not give him a license to work, to have his own business, even fix bicycles in the street. He never went to school, but he knows how to fix machines.
So the Communist Party had to allow him to do that.
Yeah, it's called the urban committee. It's in every city. We call them 城管. So the city government has to give you permit to work for yourself. They say, Mr. Tang, you are retired. We need to get those permits to young people. But he said my retirement income cannot keep my family's
But
fed.
I got to take care of my
So
family.
he's
And I was forced to retire. But
his right to make a living is taken away by government. They want to sell to him as a permit. My dad was a very honest guy. He could not bribe anybody. He just did it illegally. So my dad worked in the streets of Chengdu, day and night. He used to be working the days and get punished and get caught, and he switched to night by pedaling tricycles, carry passengers, and basically making cash income, right? But it was illegal. So I remember he got robbed. He broke his nose one time, come home, and could not even go to.
he broke his nose, or somebody else broke
Somebody
it for
else
him.
hit him,
Yeah.
tried to rob him, right?
Yeah,
His
yeah.
nose was broken, and he just basically always get moving again. And one time get caught, the government would take all his equipment away, his tricycles and his equipment, and he would borrow money from family, friends, and start over again. He did that for years. He paid through my 4 years
But
college
they just would
later.
not. They just would not give him. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
But they would not give him a permit to do it legally, because he was a persona non grata. They didn't like him. He had stood up against the party. Why?
He's supposed to be having some income as retired worker.
But he didn't.
But he did have a little bit income as early retirement, but just so little. I mean, we could not really have just even
You
3
couldn't live.
meals for.
Was there any welfare program or anything like that you could apply for that would help you?
No.
Nothing like that.
Nothing. And my mom.
Is there now? Do they have welfare programs for people who are getting
I
bad
remember
straits?
that they have if you're single, elderly, living by yourself, you have absolutely no income at all. Maybe there will be something for you, just basically some basic food and stuff.
But otherwise, your family's supposed to take care of you, I
Yeah, your
suppose.
family. I just remember everybody was starving, and I have this one uncle always like to come to us, and in China that time no phone call, nothing, right? When your family are starving, they just show up at your door when it's meal time and sit down with you together.
Yeah.
So my dad always is trying to, be compassionate. You cannot chase your family away. No, if we have food,
Yeah.
I guess you can sit down and eat the food with us.
So
Yeah.
everyone you know was under similar circumstances, trying to struggle
Yes.
through this.
Yes.
And the state is controlling the jobs, controlling distribution and production, controlling what you're allowed to do, controlling where you lived, I suppose,
Yes.
where you could
yes.
travel to.
We were bounded by household registration system. You cannot just.
You
go
have to live where you're assigned.
Yes, this little booklet, we still have it today called
I'd love to see that.
household registration that has your family address, your job, every member in the family
So-
registered with local
Okay.
police station.
So here's what she's saying. You have an assigned place to live, a house registration, and it's a book, and everybody, they get that registration from the local police.
Yes.
So, I mean, it has law enforcement behind it. That's
Right.
where you're supposed to be, and you have to be there.
Right.
Amazing.
That's why I talked about last time. Hey, we cannot just pack up and get a job and move to another state. You are restricted to
You can't move down the street.
No, you cannot even change a job so easily. So here's another thing that I want to tell you about food rationing. We do have some neighbors, they have a higher position in the factory. See, we are the workers. We're supposed to be the ruling class according to the communism.
Yes.
But actually, it's not. I discovered people have higher positions than us. They might be even a little bit more educated, not illiterate like my dad. They get a better position. You get more food rationing coupons.
Better toilet?
No.
Food? More
We
food?
still had no toilet, but they had a milk powder.
Milk powder.
Milk powder was a luxury item. I
see.
used to be starving. My stomach was growling, and they were always cooking this milk powder to make it hot in the liquid. It smelled wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Almost I wanted to go to steal some. I was so hungry.
Was
So they had a
was
better-
that stove in your house that was also provide the heat in the winter?
We had no heating in the winter.
So did you just keep near that stove?
That's just in the outside kitchen. So
Oh.
we had 2 rooms for family of 5, 2 little rooms, okay? Just that's it. You don't have so-called family room, bedroom, nothing. Just 2 rooms for you to sleep. Then toilet, on the ground is outside kitchen. Everybody build outdoor kitchen. Another side from your 2 bedrooms. So in the winter we had no heat. I had a hard time to fall asleep because it was so wet, cold. And I show people sometimes on my left foot there is a witness, a scar, permanent scar from cold weather. So when the weather gets so cold, your blood freezes through.
You got frostbite?
My husband said that it's impergo, so you get infected by scratching it because
Yes.
you got like itchy. Then once you scratch it, you keep opening up and you scratch it again, so now I have a permanent scar there. Every winter, you have a hard time to sleep because the central government decided here's the Yangtze River. Okay, north of people in Yangtze River can have a central heat, which
Okay,
is
so
a cold system.
north of the main river, you could have heat.
Yeah, because it's colder there.
'Cause it's
and
colder.
in the south,
But down
no
here,
heating.
no heat.
But even though we can be below zero, it was freaking cold.
0 degrees Fahrenheit?
We use centigrade, right?
0
Yeah.
degrees Fahrenheit, so that'd be freezing, 32 here, right?
Yes, it was a wet cold. I mean, sometimes we couldn't just
So
sleep.
for those people that don't know, she's mentioned centigrade, which is used in China. So it was 0 degrees centigrade. She said it was cold, which would mean that would be 32 degrees freezing temperature
Right,
in
right.
Fahrenheit.
You know what we do before go sleep? We will boil hot water and put it into this plastic container, and then you put it inside your cover. So
Yeah.
before you go inside your cover, it's cold, right? And then now it will become a little bit toasty.
Did you have electricity?
We had a little bit electricity, one light bulb.
One light bulb.
Very dark. It's funny. You look at all the communist socialist countries, they always have electrical supply problem. When you look at South Korea on
Yes.
the map, I remember we were always living darkness. I become nearsighted very quickly. In middle school, I had to wear glasses to read because I had to do my homework and read a book in kind of not
very
very good
dim light.
lighting. And if you use first of all, it costs lots of money if you use
Yeah.
a high, more bright light bulb. Also, sometimes if everybody use that, then you have shortages.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
So you had one light in your 2 rooms.
yes.
Wow.
And then
Okay.
one little light in the outdoor kitchen where you
Alright.
can cook.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's move up to before you left. You were, how old were you when you left? College age, right?
Yeah, when I left my hometown, Chengdu, where I grew up, basically my memory started in that courtyard until 15. We moved into a little bit better housing, and they got rid of that thing. And the better housing is 2 families share 1 bathroom. And my mom and dad still have the apartment. My brother lives there right now. And then I studied for college because Mao died, remember, 1976.
76.
I was 12 years old. And that was very shocking to me. How could he die? Because throughout my entire school years, we were talking about long live Chiang Mao, 10,000 years.
10,000 years.
Yes, how could he die? He was like our God. And I was so brainwashed to be his supporter, worship him. I really, sometimes I feel like I can see him smiling at me from the cloud,
Right.
talking
So,
to me from the fire.
Let's get back to the people watching this for a minute, just to put us all on the same page. So she's talking about when Mao was he president of China? Is that what you called him there?
We'll call
Or
it Chairman Mao.
Chairman
Chairman
Mao.
Mao.
So he's chairman of the Communist Party.
Yes,
and the
and the
Politburo.
military, and the military
yeah.
commission.
So he runs it all.
Chairman.
He's what we would think of as a dictator. And then he had people kind of like Caesar did think of him as a god. And they used to have these little red books, sayings of Mao,
Yeah.
right? And you'd hold them up in
Yeah.
10,000 years, 10,000
we
years,
had
right?
we had to remember what his
The words.
quotation said.
Quotes
then,
from
then
Mao.
you chant.
Yeah.
In school, first thing we do for first 15 minutes is just doing all the chanting stuff.
So first 15 minutes every day.
Yes.
And people gripe about doing the Pledge of Allegiance here.
Mm-hmm.
You're worshiping Mao for the first 15 minutes of school every day. So you can see, as she grows up into a young woman, to her, Mao is like a god for her. The worship was of the state. But are you Hindu underneath that?
My grandma and my mom were Buddhists.
Buddhist.
But during the Cultural Revolution, they shut down all the temples, and they wanted monks to come out, denounce themselves, and hold their
Oh, that's right.
scripture to say this is all BS.
Yes.
We don't believe it
So
anymore.
part of the Cultural Revolution was the destruction of religion in China.
all religion except communism.
Except communism, which is what I argue sometimes. If you ever listen to any of my radio shows or anything, I've talked about that there is religion, and the socialists, it's the religion of the state. You worship the leaders that are in the state. So we have a separation of church and state here. You got to wonder how that plays out for people that are pro-socialist or pro-communist in the United States. I don't know how we can use that in the future. Well, I do know how, but socialists watching this would freak out. No, it's not that, but I get it. They don't want to be stopped by anything.
Right. So if I was still Buddhist or tell people I was Buddhist, I could not be allowed to wear red scarf and become red guard. I had nothing to do with Mao's organization. I would be totally criticized and marginalized, and
you may not be able to go to college or.
It would be terrible. They ask you in your student file. So when we go to public school, you have a file for each person. It's all secret. In that file, they document you. They ask you questions.
So the state has secret files they keep of every person. Yeah. And now there's a new thing that they just started, the social score. And this is a new, it just keeps getting worse, right? It just keeps getting worse. So why don't you explain, so she grew up under what she's saying now, but it's even, what she's saying at this moment, she's telling you the past. So right now we're going to talk about what's present in China today. This social scoring is a new thing that probably the communists and socialists throughout the world are looking at going, yes, and some people are saying Google is involved in that. I don't know exactly. I guess we'll find out that in the future, but what do you think about that, Lily?
Well, I mentioned to you household registration keep track of your family's movement. Then student file later become personnel file to keep track of individuals' movement. But now used to be just in a big brown envelope with all your secret data inside.
Secret data.
You're not allowed to see it. Your family, parents are not allowed to see it, but only the communist bosses and your employers can see it.
Only the party.
So today, it's just digital tech now. It's all, we call it digital tyranny.
Yes.
They use modern technology and the digital tracking, facial recognition, and social media posting to score every citizen in China, probably by the end of next year. Then they give you a score. So let's say everybody starts 1,000 points. So if you do something good, post something good for the government leaders, you add the scores. Or otherwise reduce scores, include people in your group, post something kind of not so good for the government, then it will affect your score too. So make your incentive to get rid of the friends are bad for you. So you don't belong to some big, nice, huge group
Right,
anymore.
So it started out when people would, in the courtyard would maybe what we would call squeal, I guess, or tell on somebody else in the courtyard that might be doing or saying something would be anti-party, right?
Right, yeah.
But now it's gone up to, we'll check whoever you talk to, wherever you go, wherever you
cross-nation,
whatever you think, anywhere.
Right.
Or if you went out of the country like you did, you may not be able to come back too easily, right?
Well, that they are tracking us overseas too. CCP thinks once you were Chinese, you are Chinese forever. I'm an American citizen now, and I have American passport. It does not matter. I get attacked on my Facebook page, Lily for Liberty. There are like 3 or 4 trolls. We call them 50 Cent Army, paid by Beijing. Every post they use to attack me, maybe they get 50 cents out of that.
They get paid. You're saying they might get paid.
If you Google 50 Cent
Right,
Army.
so people that are pro the state, the Chinese state, if they attack her because she's for liberty, and they can see it on Facebook and stuff, then they pay people to troll her and say bad things about her, which of course would reduce her social score.
They used to only do that inside the China in Mandarin Chinese. Now you got those trolls are very fluent in English. And so they are tracking overseas Chinese like me who are dissidents, who are not in line with the CCP's policy.
So the state is watching everyone, all the time, everywhere. Is that safe to say?
Yes,
it's totally scary. And especially when we think, as free people here, you think about that in the coming election. When the Democratic Party, which I've said for years, they're the Socialist Party of the United States. And finally, it's caught up, and by the way, I'm going to plug my book, Ruling the Elite. It's on Amazon. Go check it out. I talked about all this and how we need to stop it from happening. And now it's finally coming out. You can see the Democratic Party for what they are. I'm talking about the leadership. Most of the people in it are They've grown up in it. They don't know any better. It's just the way it is.
And they're against that too, because nobody wants to be tracked by your government.
Exactly.
Really.
Well, they should be, but other people want you to be tracked. That's the problem.
Yeah,
And eventually
right.
the state takes over and tracks everyone. So this is what she's saying now is our future. If you're a person that's supporting communism and socialism in the United States or anywhere else, this is this woman. She's a woman. She's not a piece of meat. She's a woman with a brain, a history, a family of her own. And to them, you're a number, something that must conform, and if not, you're to be penalized, and you're dehumanized. So think about that. Is that what you want for your life, for your children's lives? You're seeing our future today in what Lily's telling us.
And our kids today in government schools are being tracked also without parental consent. I have been fighting against the Common Core, which is standardized centralized education and data mining and tracking, just like what happened to us in China.
Right, so those of you who support Common Core, what Lily's just saying, and she's a mother of 3, she's saying Common Core is similar to what they did in China. And it's what the state wants you to learn, and then they will track the individuals, the kids, to make sure they get the state words and pass it. Now they have a social score for the kids, and it doesn't matter about parental consent or not. They're going to do it.
Yeah, very, very dangerous. Go down this path. So basically, it's like 1984, the book.
Yes.
The police state.
I'm glad you said it's one of my favorite books.
Yeah.
It used to be required reading in the United States. I don't think it is anymore. But there's a book out. The name of the author isn't really George Orwell, but that's the name he used. So George Orwell, 1984, the numerals 1984, was supposed to be about what the takeover of socialism and the control of the people, and he wrote about it prior to 1984. I think that book came out in the early 60s, maybe even earlier. But it's about the coming problems that George Orwell saw, and it's a book you should read.
That's why you see I'm traveling around the country to tell my stories,
Yes.
because I see similarities. What is happening in America today remind me of what happened to me in the past, China. But my Beijing trolls want to tell me, shut up, Lily, in America. You talk about what happened 30 years ago. You should not talk about that anymore. You should talk about how great China is today. So basically, I went through all that. They want me to be quiet about it.
Change history. It didn't happen.
Yeah, but I said, well, I have a duty as an American citizen. I don't want to see what happened to me happens to my children, grandchildren in America. This is a free country. I have free speech.
Right.
Why should I be silenced?
Yes, you wanted to come here because it was free. So Lily came here for college, and then she stayed, and because she thought freedom was the way all people should live.
Actually, I came here for graduate school.
For graduate school.
That's how I get out. I could get out by coming to graduate school on my own, getting American sponsor, getting student visa, work 20 hours a week to pay my graduate school bills. By living with American and host families, I cook and clean so I can exchange for free rent. That means when I started in this country, I couldn't speak English. I knew how to cook a little bit, and I was in debt to my American sponsor, $1,200. I borrowed $100 from my friends. I did not have money, even though I was a faculty member in Shanghai Law School. Did not make much money, so I had to raise money, $10 here, $10 here, $10 here, promised to pay them back with interest after I come to this country. I thought this is a free country. I am going to strike rich someday. So I told my friends, lend me some money, I will pay you back, and I promise you. And the reason I come to this country instead of choose to go to Europe is because American students showed me a pocket constitution when I was a junior high student.
So she's saying when she was a junior high student, some friends showed her a pocket copy of the American Constitution.
And he read to me. He read to me.
He read it to you because of English. Okay.
My English was not good. He read to me. Lily, listen to this paragraph. All men are created equal. And we hold this truth to be self-evident. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it doesn't matter. You're Chinese, you're yellow, your skin color, your nationality, your gender. We are created by God. And you have equal rights. Your rights are not given to you by your government. And then my light bulb just came on. It's like, oh, wow, I never heard about this before. I got to think about this. So when I go back next time, I refuse to register at the door because the door has a guard to say, Lily, in the register. Which foreigner are you going to say? What are you going to talk about it? I will just say, I have rights. I'm not going to register. So I will watch this lady. She goes to bathroom or pour a hot cup of tea. I will just go run upstairs very quietly to see this American student, then come down. And I did that 2 or 3 times. He explained to me more about the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And I was created by God, not by Chinese government. It's like, this is a country I need to come someday.
If you were caught by the government doing that, what would they have done to you?
I will get punished. I will get write up in my student file. Say she broke a rule to go see foreign student without the registration. And I may get that time when you graduate from college, you get assigned a government job by your university leadership. So if I get
and the party,
if I get a write-up like that, every department has a Communist Party. If I get a write-up like that, they're gonna give me a very rotten job. When I graduate, that'll be my punishment.
So
the worst, I could get kicked out of school.
So she finds out about this thing called the American Constitution. He reads the words that were written by our founders and says she's changed. It's like I can't even imagine such a place, right?
Well, I never heard about individual rights before.
Never even heard about
workers' rights, parents' rights, women's rights. It's all collective rights. Individual right as a human being, by being me. Like my Chinese name was Tang. By being Tang, I have, those undeniable rights given to me by my God, by my Creator. It's like, wow, that was some new concept I never heard before. Once my light bulb came on, I just could not turn off. I could not go back to the old way. That's why I become rebellious college student. I become rebellious faculty member when I got a job to teach in law school. And then my party boss trying to constantly attack me, suppress me. I just feel like the reason I went to law school because I want to contribute to build China, to become rule of law society from rule of man, like by one God, like Mao. So now I feel like I got to get out because I cannot be happy pursue my goal here at all.
So now you see in America, you're a grown woman now, and you look out over the landscape of America and colleges, what it must appall you now of free speech zones, meaning there must be no free speech zones, right? Obviously, it's a zero-sum game on college campuses.
Right.
You see the control that the left wing has over professors. You see attacks against America, denial of the Constitution. You even see people in our government that want to eliminate some of the rights that we have. Meanwhile, of course, they're sworn to that Constitution to uphold and support it. And my feeling is they shouldn't be allowed to be in our government, elected or appointed, if that's the way they think. But here we are. What's your opinion?
I actually went to lots of colleges to give talks, to share my personal stories.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually shocked to see them were just mesmerized by my stories I'm going to tell tonight and my PowerPoint presentations. It's like these kids remind me of my youth under communist China. We were never taught the truth. We were never taught a real history.
So you're saying that college kids that you talk to today, you're seeing
like us.
Like you were.
Yes, because they were indoctrinated. And they did not know that, even did not know what the Chairman Mao did. When I told them Chairman Mao killed more people than Hitler did under Nazi, they did not know. And the thing is, some of them wear Mao's t-shirt. They thought he was awesome, cool. And I said, do you know how many people he murdered? They did not know. So those people remind me of the Red Guards were worship Mao and were chanting for him, fighting for him, and
Out of ignorance.
And they were naive. They were used by dictators,
Used.
tyrants,
It's an
because
old
they were
story.
innocent.
It's an old story, and it's happening here.
So when I go to college, after I show them my stories, I tell them these talking points near the end. They were quiet. They had lots of questions later. Nobody protested.
Well, it may not be state pressure, but it could be your professor, it could be your peers just pressing you so much you don't show that much interest, and that would have been the way it would have been for you when you were a college kid.
Right.
You couldn't speak up.
So I feel sorry for the youth because they are the victims of governmental schools indoctrination. And they all throw Karl Marx sounds good, socialism sounds good, but they don't know what it really means to your freedom.
I've seen people in Che shirts.
Yes.
You've seen this?
Yes, all the time.
So
yeah.
you people that, your kids are wearing Che shirts, I mean, I see this, they think it's cool. Che was a murderer. He was the right-hand person eliminator for Castro and the communists that took over Cuba. And almost no one in Cuba knew that Castro was communist until after he took over.
Yes.
This is, wake up, people. I mean, you're hearing the truth right here. And I'm sure there are some of you going, that's not the truth. It can't be. As I'm sure students that you went to school with said, no, that can't be. Mao, 10,000 years. Because they were indoctrinated.
Well, I had the pictures to prove to them. That's why they could not challenge me, because I am a credible speaker, an eyewitness. Well, how can you say to me, I'm making sense up when you look at my pictures, when you look at me wear red scarf, wear red guard uniform, and Kumbaya, I was cheerleader for the communist leader and party. I was totally just like some of young people today, you know, like who totally trusted the government authority to say. It's kind of dumb because those people, those young people, want to have more personal freedom, but they don't make the connection. When you empower government, when you empower the leadership who want to pass more laws, take away more of your freedom, they think it's wonderful for the country, for the common folks like them. No, it's not. By the time they concentrate all the power in the top, they will not even be able to allow to go to street to protest anymore.
That's right.
Like in China today, you go to Tiananmen Square protest, you're going to taking away immediately.
You're gone.
You're gone. You know, like the Hong Kong people today, they're fighting for their freedom, rule of law, like their young people's future. But I don't know what's going to happen to them.
Well, let me say this, and I'm going to say it directly into the camera to people that are my age or younger, especially the young ones. Today, you're making decisions about what you're going to support politically, and it's going to affect the lives of hundreds of millions of people in the future. What she's telling you is, and history matters. People who don't know their history are likely to repeat it. And this is what's happening in the United States now. Those people that think it's fine for them to say on the left, because I'm on the right, them to say what they want whenever they want, but they don't want you to speak. But they don't see that as wrong, because they think you're bad for thinking against the state and the state party, and that is the Democrat Party. They are the Communist Socialist Party of the United States. And I know they want to deny it for the most part, but for the first time, and a lot of us have alleged this and talked about it, I was a socialist when I was in college. I was you, if you're that young person. I was that person. I listened to it, I heard it, I believed it. I was steeped in it. In fact, college is a very socialist place, really. Food's just there, everybody thinks the same, we're all young and we just know the truth, we know what it should be.
You were idealistic.
You're idealistic, as I was, as she was. And the truth is much different than your idealism. And it's very scary. And I would say communism and socialism, most people agree, in the last century killed well over 100 million people, and that didn't even include those that Mao killed. They were responsible for the deaths because war broke out all over the world. Then there was a Cold War between people who wanted communism and that ideology where the state runs everything, and they promised things and they gave you things, promises that they couldn't keep and wouldn't. When you concentrate power, wealth follows it. So when they talk about, wealthy people today and taxing them, yeah, but you know who ends up being wealthy? The same people that are in China that are wealthy. The people at the top of government. They've got wealth, they've got power, and the lower people and the middle class people, they're poor by our standards.
Right. I remember Americans saying, absolutely power corrupts. Absolutely. So why we, the people, will be very willing to give government more power to control our business, our children, our lives? We want them to become smaller. That's why I loved Constitution. It's about separation of powers with the people who give consent to be governed. All those powers the federal government has are from us. But now it's like they act like our masters. They are smarter than us. They can run economy. They can run your health care. They can run your retirement and your kids' education.
Yes. So true.
It's so scary to go down that way.
It is. Lily, let me ask you something, and especially with your history, you're scared. And with my history of freedom, I'm scared too. Because I've seen freedom. I know what it's like, and I know what we have to do to keep it. And you've seen it, what it's like in the absence of it.
I never had the freedom. Now I got it.
Now you got it, and you have people wanting to take it away, right?
Right.
In the name of something you know is a lie. So I was going to ask you something that, what the heck, it related to the timing of you and your kids. And your kids, are they through college now?
One is still in college.
One is still in college. Is that a boy or a girl?
A girl.
Okay. Does she come to you and talk to you about these things and what's happening in college?
Yes, we talk to our kids all the time. We have family tradition, always a family dinner together to talk about things. Since they're in schools, like elementary school and now all the way to college, now even about work, right? That I think as parents, that's one of your most important jobs is, to raise your children right. Because they need guidance in today's world. And especially in college environment. I can tell you, my daughter goes to university in Colorado State University, and she tells me, what teachers are saying, and she said her school teachers sometimes are not trying to be so obviously indoctrinating them, but she can tell mom there are. She took one elective class called social justice. She dropped it after that one day. She said, Mom, I will get F in this class because I would disagree with my professor on this one. So I went to her school actually when I was running for U.S. Senate in Colorado 2016, hosted by Young Americans for Liberty group. I went to talk to college students.
Probably Young Americans for Freedom.
Yeah.
Is it YAF?
They have two. One
two
is okay. So the Young American for Liberty, they hosted me, but I wish I could get into the university with 1,000 students to speak to them about my personal stories. Not partisan, just understand what happened to somebody like me who grew up under that kind of system.
Yes.
Utopian never came. When you go down that ideological path, all you get is a tyranny.
That's the end result.
And
that's
the top people who control everything, all the power, all the wealth. And it's not what the young people think that
Did
will
you,
happen.
it reminds me of two things. One, that also happened to me when I started waking up to what I was supporting and then turned against socialism. My first awakening thing was I had a class, I took an elective from architecture. I took an elective into it was called social conflict.
Oh, it's
and
different.
there was a woman who ran the course, and she was talking all about discrimination and racism and all that. Now it was after the 60s when civil rights legislation had been passed once again, only it really was a broad spectrum of civil rights that were corrected. And I raised my hand, I asked her a question, I said, what about reverse discrimination? She said, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm a white guy, but I'm a white and a guy, and I was recently not hired back to my job where the rules were that I should be, because according to the union rules, I was working in an airplane factory, according to the union rules, I was supposed to be hired back. And I went and stood to get my showed my union card and everything to get back in to start my summer job. I was working my way through college. And they said, well, they didn't have any jobs. I said, what do you mean you don't have any jobs? And I look around the waiting room, there are all these people filling out applications. I'm going, and other people had gotten applications. They wouldn't give me an application. I said, but I'm a B man. I'm supposed to be hired back before anybody else. I said, well, that doesn't matter anymore. And then found out later they were only hiring people that were minorities, not any white men.
Affirmative action?
Yes. Not any white men. Now, I want to say this to all of you who are out there. If you're sitting there and you're thinking that somehow men or white people are lesser than you because you're a woman, or maybe something in between a man and a woman is what you think you are, or because of your color, you need to think again about that. Nobody should be discriminated against. That's what America is founded on, and that's what's made America great, and that's why you're here. If America was truly only for white people and their white privilege, you wouldn't be here. Think about that, and do not fall into that trope that the left has, that somehow white men are bad, or they don't even know they're bad. That's awful thinking. It's no different than it was in the 50s or 40s when people said black people are bad, or the Chinese Exclusion Act in the 1800s that said Chinese people can't be in America.
Or Japanese later.
Or Japanese who were interned during World War
right.
II, all by the Democrats. The same people who are telling you this. Now, I don't want to be that political about this, but friends, this whole idea of socialism is very political. And those of you who think that way, you need to rethink what you're thinking and read the Constitution, read the Bill of Rights. It applies to everyone at all times and for all time. Wake up. Don't let America become what China is, and certainly not what it was. So that's my thinking, but I'm going to let the expert in this subject talk, because I've lived my whole life in America. But Lily, and again, you can get a hold of her at Lily, Lily, for Liberty, and I know it at Comcast.net, right?
Yes,
Or-
my Facebook page, just Lily for Liberty, and Twitter. And I want to...
It's Lily for Liberty, and on Twitter.
Yeah, it's at Lily for Liberty. And also I have Instagram, my children helped me to set up, called Lily Tang Williams. If you're one of the young people who love to use Instagram, I'm available there too.
So Instagram, it's Lily Tang Williams, and it's Tang is T-A-N-G, Lily is L-I-1-L-Y, so L-I-L-Y, right? Lily Tang Williams.
Right.
So it's
and
at.
I wanted to say that I love this country. I never had the freedom, the voting rights, even to be also a political activist. And now I can go to my town hall meetings to voice my opinion. Every 2 years I get a chance to vote for my representatives. I can go out protest, have rally if I choose to. This is all because we live in this free country, right? But individual rights and freedom are what's important, not identity politics. Remember, I always tell people that all the big government have one common strategy. It's divide and conquer. If they can divide the people like we were divided by Mao into 10 classes, we're busy fighting ourselves, tooth and nail hard. Guess what? We all become slaves at the end.
And identity politics here does the same thing.
Yes, it's not good for most people, and most people are good people.
Yes.
They are peaceful, they're loving, they want to pursue self-interest and happiness, and they care about their neighbors, they care about their communities. Whatever cause you want to work on, that's your choice. But to play identity politics, calling people racist here, racist there, it's just not productive to build a unified and a very free country. And I'm worried for my children's sake, because like I have 2 boys, 1 girl, what they're going to be called later?
Yeah.
And do we have due process of law? Is that what make America great? We have the rule of law, not rule of man. Like just people in Washington tell us what they think they can impose down on you. And we're losing our rights now, daily basis.
Yes.
Why did we even reach this point? I sometimes become very, very concerned citizen. That's what I'm doing to educate the middle school, high school, college kids
Good.
about communism and socialism, about why America is still a great country, but our freedom is worth for you to fighting for.
Yes. So the takeaway is simple. America is a great country, and one of the things that makes us great is individual rights and individual respect, no matter what color or sex you are. That's in our laws. It's in our Constitution. You need to read it and read the Declaration of Independence, which tells you your rights come from God, not man, and they can't limit you. We don't want it limited. Let it be. Let us be free. And you've heard it from a great source here today. I could talk to this woman for the next 12 hours, but unfortunately, we're going to run out of tape, I think. So let me just tell you that, Lily, it's been wonderful to have met you. I just am so excited that you're out here helping people understand the truth, whether it's Mao t-shirts or Che t-shirts or what it can be like under a communist regime. And I appreciate the dilemma with your own children. I thank God you came here to our country to tell the truth. Somebody needs to, and that's what I'm about too. So I want to thank Lily Tang Williams for being here today and being my guest and standing for this interview. It's a big thing.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
You got good questions and discussions. We'll continue.
Thank you, Lily.
Yeah, thank you.